It has been exactly 2 weeks since we reached 1,000 subscribers on this channel. It's been great seeing the same names popping up in the comments and feeling like I'm starting to form a bond with you guys. So I thought, what better way to celebrate 1,000 subscribers than to break that bond by roasting your opinion. I want you to bear in mind that every single person that submitted their hot takes and their unpopular opinions are okay with being roasted. And I'm probably not going to roast you. I'm probably just going to systematically explain why your opinion is wrong and why mine is right. So what I've done is I've convinced Sophie, my girlfriend against her will, to read all your comments out loud, and I'm basically going to react and analyze to see whether your opinions are based or not. So before we start, Sophie, can you tell the viewers how much you know about Assassin's Creed?
Close to nothing. I've tried and failed to play AC Unity, AC Mirage, but apart from like basic lore and some character names, I don't know anything.
She knows nothing at all. She's heard me rant about it for days on end for a year and a half, but she essentially knows nothing. So what are our qualifications? We don't have any between the two. I've got a glorified AC channel with 1,000 subscribers, and I have a girlfriend who knows about Ezio. So we're probably the two most qualified people to roast people's personal opinions. Without further ado, let's begin.
In my opinion, AC1 has one of, if not the best settings in the series in terms of ambience. I don't know how to explain it. The three cities feel so alive.
We're starting off with a banger. This is not an unpopular opinion. Actually, it might be an unpopular opinion, but it's not a bad one. AC1 has some of the best world design and world building that I've seen in the entire series. I am extremely biased because AC1 is one of my favorite games and Altair is my favorite character. But the three cities have a very distinct immersive feel, and there's a very specific reason for this that I'm going to educate Sophie on right now. Each one of the AC1 cities have a different filter that reflects the state of the city, both economically and in terms of how ravaged it's been by war. Damascus has an orange kind of tone that reflects its middle of the road, arid Arabic nature. Then Jerusalem is bathed in like a tint of green that shows its affluence. It's the rich city of the three, where most of the rich people live. And then Acre has a blue tint, which reflects how poor and ravaged it's been by war. Those three artistic choices of filtering the cities not only gives visual variance to what otherwise would have been quite monotonous cities, but kind of gives a narrative reason for why the visuals look so different. And this is then further supported by the fact that AC1 cities have wonderful actual architectural design. If you do parkour around Acre, you kind of see how most of the buildings are broken or burnt down, and you're running around ruins essentially. Damascus is much more cosmopolitan, much more like an actual city that people travel to and fro. And then Jerusalem feels like a much more developed, rich and affluent city. The immersion of these three cities, I completely agree, are second to none in Assassin's Creed. Maybe AC Unity and Venice. What, you think I'm biased?
I don't think you're biased, but are you really going to pick AC1 over France?
It's Paris, and yes, AC1 slaps. The only bad thing about AC1 in terms of world design is that the sound sucks dick. Like, the sound design is so fucking bad because they don't account for distance. So if you're walking around the streets, you'll have a lady like beg you for money as if she was whispering in your ear, and then you'll escape that lady, climb onto the rooftops, and it'll still sound just as close when she's begging for money. So apart from that does break immersion, the world design of AC1 is just insane.
Here's another take that might get some people heated. There's no such thing as a bad AC game. There are okay, good, and great/amazing games.
Okay. As an AC fan, I'm inclined to agree with this, but we have to make a very specific distinction between video games and Assassin's Creed. If you're going to enter a conversation about video games and what good video games are, you cannot present certain Assassin's Creed games as contenders for good video games because you're going to get destroyed in arguments with logical people. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan like me, you're emotionally invested in this franchise, you're emotionally tied to this franchise. So yes, of course, you're going to have fun and love every AC for its own merits. I find fun in all of these Assassin's Creed games, but I would never go to video games in general where people are talking about Red Dead Redemption, they're talking about The Witcher 3, and be like, oh, have you guys played AC Rogue? Like, I'm not gonna fucking do that because I'm gonna get laughed at, because AC Rogue is not that good of a game, AC Syndicate is not that good of a game, and even though I've had fun in them, I cannot bring them as proudly as I could bring AC4, AC2, or, in my opinion, AC Origins or AC Brotherhood. As Assassin's Creed fans, we can all agree most of us enjoy the games for one reason or another, but you cannot possibly say that there are no bad AC games when you compare it to the greater video game industry. I just don't think that's realistic.
Odyssey got me into the series, and I'm 26.
Eek. No, you know what? Good for you. Honestly, anything that got you into the series, I'm happy that you have a game that you had fun with. I don't know why you're telling me your age, but I guess it's just to say that it's not because you're just some child that likes pretty colors. I'm glad you liked... No, like, I don't know why you're telling me you're 26, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. My only question for you would be, not that you're not allowed to like Odyssey, but what do you mean by got you into the series? Because if you've been alive for 26 years, you've been exposed to other AC games, and you're telling me that those games didn't get you into the series, but then AC Odyssey did. When you got into the series, how did you enjoy the other games that you didn't enjoy before? Or do you even enjoy those games? Because if Call of Duty came out with a Street Fighter game and I played it and loved it, and then I tried all the other games and they were just first-person shooter games, would I say that I'm a fan of the series just because I'm a fan of one game that's completely different stylistically to the rest of the series? I guess I'm just wondering, like, what does it mean that you became a fan through AC Odyssey, and how can that make you a fan of other games that came before it? But like, good for you, fair enough.
AC3 has the best main theme in the franchise.
I mean, narrative theme maybe, and I actually would be inclined to agree that the philosophy in AC3 is wonderful. I would not say it's the best, but I would not be mad at anyone who says it's the best. So I'm going to respect this opinion and not roast it, I think.
Weak.
No, okay. No, but the thing is, AC3 has what I consider to be a criminally boring story that explores insanely interesting themes. The themes of liberty and the justification of the Templar cause, the hypocrisy of the assassins, and how Haytham and Connor throughout the story go back and forth in this ideological conflict in the backdrop of the War for Independence. Amazing thematically, Assassin's Creed 3. I just think the story overall is boring as fuck, and I'm not American, so I'm not emotionally attached enough to like go through all the boring shit. But I think thematically it is one of the strongest in the series, and I'm not gonna be opposed to believing that.
But let's assume for 1 second that he did mean the music.
So assuming it's music, have you even listened to the Unity soundtrack? Oh, it's overplayed, whatever. It's so fucking good. Listen to the Unity soundtrack and tell me AC3 has the best theme. I think it has a good theme. I think all of the Assassin's Creeds have good themes. Regardless of how atrocious Assassin's Creed has been, two things that Ubisoft does not miss with is their open world recreations of historical locations and the music. They just don't miss. They don't miss.
It almost sounds like you're an AC fan.
You know what? It's almost like I have a channel dedicated to Assassin's Creed.
This is one that I personally disagree with. Assassin's Creed Syndicate isn't that bad.
Okay, Sophie, go.
Every clip I've seen of this game has been so dark for no reason. And I know that's technically a mod, but that's my argument.
Okay, I'm gonna roast you instead. Piece of shit argument. Imagine a game set in the Industrial Revolution. Okay, 1800s London. Factories are covering the sky in smoke and soot. You've got child labor, you've got criminal underworlds, you've got depressing people who are dying early. This is a game that justifies itself perfectly to be a dark, gritty game. And the reason why I mod my videos to be dark is because I want them to be dark, because it makes the game better. I think that AC Syndicate without mods is not underrated at all. I think it's a absolute travesty creatively of a game. I think that it takes a setting that could have worked so well with a gritty and dark Assassin's Creed story and turns it into a whimsical fucking Charles Dickens novel for no reason whatsoever. The two characters of Jacob and Evie are so unlikable and so surface level, and I have never understood people who fucking rave about how funny they are. This game tries to be whimsical and comical and fails, I think, on every level. The voice acting is wonderful, the music is decent, the stealth design is great, but the parkour is so restricting that you can't even enjoy this game and have any sort of player expression. The customization is horrible. You can't have hoods up. The game design doesn't really reflect what you would want from an industrial age Assassin's Creed. And you've got so many screenshots and data and knowledge about what the game should have been and would have been that you just cannot help but compare it to them. So I don't think Syndicate is underrated. I think a lot of the aspects that make it salvageable are underrated. I think more people should talk about how good the mission design is and how good a lot of the aspects of the game is, like how consistent the stealth is. But overall, it's just creatively and tonally a travesty. It's restricting in terms of movement. It's an overall failure of execution on a good idea. But yeah, I get it. It's dark. And I make it darker because it's cool. I like it.
If done right, an Assassin's Creed game with gun combat could work. Whether or not Ubisoft could pull that off is another story.
Yeah, I talked about this with Leo K, and I'll talk about it here. I think that if a game designer, a game developer understands what Assassin's Creed is, any type of game, any genre of game set in any period in history could make for a good Assassin's Creed game. Of course, I think that an Assassin's Creed game with guns could work. I'm a huge proponent of having an Assassin's Creed game set in either World War I, World War II, or my favorite, Soviet Russia. 100% guns could work. I believe an Assassin's Creed game in the future could work. I believe that any sort of Assassin's Creed game could work if it understands what Assassin's Creed is. The most important things are having the ideology, the philosophical conflict, movement, stealth, and combat. And the combat can take any form that you want it to take, and you can have stealth in a modern day game, and you can have parkour in a modern day game. game. So 100% I think that guns could work in Assassin's Creed. I'm getting kind of tired actually of the ancient Assassin's Creed games and RPGs, and I would love to see Ubisoft shift to more modern settings, because creatively and mechanically you can do a lot of interesting things with a game that has guns. And I just think that a AAA game set in Russia during the Soviet Revolution would just fucking slap.
Unity could have been the best AC of next generation gaming if it was baked longer.
Yeah, this is like the least unpopular opinion I've ever heard in my life. Like, this is Assassin's Creed 101. Any person who's ever played an Assassin's Creed game has this opinion, so I agree 100%. This is not a hot take. Like, of course, Unity had the potential to be the ultimate Assassin's Creed experience. When I play it, it still feels next gen when it works. Problem is, it doesn't work that often. So yeah, if it had longer time to bake in the oven, it would have been the best AC by far. And I think that every single human being believes that. So yeah.
Layla is a great character in Valhalla, and she's also hot in that game specifically. Okay.
Go outside, find a girl that you think is pretty, and learn to talk to her. It's gonna be okay. It's scary at first, but then you're gonna get over it. She's a video game character. She's not even sexualized in the game. You should probably touch all the grass you can. Now, outside of that, Darby McDevitt, who's the person who wrote Assassin's Creed Valhalla, performed miracles by probably performing sacrifices to the gods to salvage the absolute train wreck that was AC Odyssey, both in the modern day and in the historical past, to create a decent story and a decent ending for Layla in Valhalla. I think Layla grew a spine and became a moral character in AC Valhalla after becoming an absolute bitch in AC Odyssey. She killed her best friend, by the way, Sophie. Like, she killed her best friend, and then she was like, oh, get up. And then she didn't, so then she just carried on fucking doing her thing. So fucking weird, so strange, piece of shit writing. Darby McDevitt saved that, gave Layla like a good conclusion, made her a likable, intelligent, capable character that had morals and wanted to be held accountable for her actions, and she was given a good ending and a good send-off. So I agree that Layla in Valhalla was a good character. I don't think she was a good character in Origins or Odyssey, but she definitely came around in Valhalla.
This is just a question, but what are the other ACs that he wrote?
Check this shit out. Darby McDevitt first wrote stories for like an Altair side game. I think it was Chronicles, which was a great game with a really great story. Then he spearheaded AC Revelations, which in my opinion has the best story of all Assassin's Creed games. Then he wrote AC4 Black Flag, which is known to have one of the best stories in all Assassin's Creed. And then he wrote Valhalla. So the man just fucking hits home runs all the time. And he's writing AC Hex, the witch hunt game that I told you about, where like Assassin's Creed set in like Germany during the witch hunt, during the witch trials. Yeah, so fucking cool. So he's like a legend in the AC community for how well he writes.
Why doesn't he just do everything?
Because Ubisoft sucks, and they have a production schedule that doesn't allow for anything that isn't factory level production rate, where you have to pump out games every year. And Montreal has kind of dropped the ball in terms of like how they handle their games, because Valhalla was a decent game at launch, but the post-launch just ruined the game. So even though I think it's a better game than Odyssey handled post-launch so much better.
Altair walked so Ezio could run.
Dude, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. Altair is my favorite assassin of all time. So I 100% agree that Altair walked so Ezio can run. I mean, narratively, this is literally what the case is. Like, Altair wrote the codex that educated Ezio so much on assassin techniques, assassin ideology, the hidden blade, and basically anything that Ezio kind of accomplished came off of the shoulders of Altair. The phrase, I only see so far because I stand on the shoulders of giants, applies to Ezio and Altair. But then I think also extracting yourself from the narrative and just looking at it from a video game perspective, Altair really did pave the way for Ezio to become the poster boy of the Assassin's Creed franchise. He was kind of like the primordial pre-assassin character that everyone thought was really cool, but maybe not fleshed out enough. And for me, Altair is 100% the OG and the grandfather of the assassins, both in the lore and outside of it as well. World War I or II would be terrible settings, or really any time period where guns are the main weapon. My actual hot take is that science fiction setting would be better, because there you could make up something to shift the meta back to melee weapons. I don't exactly know what you mean by this, but I'm going to disagree with the first point, which is that I do think an Assassin's Creed with guns works. I think it worked in Syndicate. I think it worked in the World War I spin-off. I think it worked in the World War II spin-off in AC Unity. And 100% I think that depending on how you design your game, you can have more or less guns while still having it work. Another thing with the gun conversation that I've never really heard any Assassin's Creed fan talk about, and it kind of frustrates me because it feels like not a lot of people are paying attention to what Assassin's Creed has had. But the only Assassin's Creed games that have not had guns are AC1 and the RPG series. AC2 has the hidden gun, AC Brotherhood has the hidden gun, AC Revelations has the hidden gun, AC3 has guns, AC4 has 4 guns, AC Unity has guns and rifles, AC Syndicate has guns. Literally most Assassin's Creed games have guns. And in the RPG creeds, you have bows that just function as guns. Like, you literally have your shotgun version, your sniper version, and your machine gun version. There hasn't really been an Assassin's Creed game that doesn't have, mechanically speaking, some sort of gun.
But what about the noise that guns make? Isn't that supposed to go against stealth?
Yes, but you don't always need every weapon to count towards stealth. Like in AC4, Edward has 4 guns that make a lot of noise in combat, but he also has a blow dart that shoots projectiles silently. And you could probably have in a modern AC game guns with silencers. So I think that, first of all, yes, it would work in my opinion, a World War II or World War III or whatever the fuck you want to do. Like future set World War III. But I think that... So yes, I think...
It's a nice improvisation.
So yeah, I think 100% that a game set in World War I or World War II or any setting with guns could work. But I also think that not enough people realize most Assassin's Creed games have had guns, and I don't see enough people talking about that. And science fiction, yeah, it'd be cool to have a science fiction AC. I think all of AC is science fiction at the end of the day, but I get what you mean, like a future Assassin's Creed game. I don't know if I would want it to be like a meta where you go back to melee weapons, like, you know, civilization going back to like old times because there's been some sort of apocalypse or whatever, but it would be cool to have a sci-fi futuristic AC.
Arno rivals Ezio, Bayek, and Edward in likability.
I think this is dumb. I think this is not true. I think that Arno is an extremely charismatic person at the beginning of the game, because I think AC Unity's introduction is one of the best introductions in Assassin's Creed, but then the story falls flat in his stupid face and Arno follows quite quickly after. He becomes a mopey dope that just follows around Elise like a fucking simp, and I don't think remains as likable throughout the entire game. What the developers tried to do was capture Ezio's charm, and they did for a little bit, but were not really able to maintain it. I think the character depth that Ezio shows, that Bayek shows, and that Edward shows is much more extensive than the one that Arno shows, and even though the voice acting is quite good throughout the entire game, Arno just doesn't hold the same caliber as the other assassins throughout their experience. Arno starts very strong and then just falls flat.
We should have had a modern day Assassin's Creed game by now. You have permission to roast me.
Thank you for your permission, but I fully agree. AC3 was the perfect time to have a modern day AC. I think that if you had cut the time that you spent with Haytham to around half of it and filled out those missions with more missions in the modern day, we would have had the perfect AC3. The culmination of Desmond learning through Altair and Ezio how to behave like an assassin, and then being able to play as Desmond, having developed those skills to then further this time-sensitive cause in the modern day, would have been perfect. The few missions that we did get in the modern day were amazing set pieces that really showed you the world that Ubisoft had built in the modern day outside of Abstergo and the warehouses, and I would have liked to see that expanded instead of spending so much time as Haytham. Yeah, I think that a modern day AC game would have been great by now, especially within the confines of AC3, where Desmond kind of plays in parallel to Connor the same way that maybe Ezio and Altair played in parallel to each other in AC Revelations.
But like, as someone who's not sat through more than 2 minutes of the modern day, why would you want more of like our contemporary society when you've got literally so many settings, like a witch hunt in fucking Germany or France, Paris?
Yeah, this is a sentiment that a lot of new AC fans have, and it's a frustrating one because it makes me feel like you're not an AC fan. You're a fan of historical fantasy. If you're going into these games wanting to play historical fantasy, you're not playing these games for what I consider to be the reasons that I fell in love with the franchise. Because when you boot up AC1, the first ever Assassin's Creed, the first time you ever play as any playable character, apart from like a weird vision with Altair, is Desmond. You see Desmond and you get explained what the Animus is, you get explained that you're in the modern day, that you've been captured, that there's a secret war between Assassins and Templars. First and foremost, Assassin's Creed is a science fiction story where you can relive your ancestors' memories. And the whole reason you're reliving your ancestors' memories is because you're engaging in a treasure hunt through time to try and win in an ancient war to save the world. The Templars are trying to get control of the planet, save the planet, and then control the population. And the Assassins are trying to maintain freedom, beat the Templars, and save the world from an impending disaster. That's the reason why you like AC, because there's an overarching modern day story that connects all the games regardless of where the ancestors are. So even when you stop playing as Altair, even when you stop playing as Ezio, there's still a reason why you keep coming back and caring about the story, and it's because you still care about Desmond, because there's still huge stakes in the modern day that you want to see how they conclude. The modern day is kind of like the glue that binds all these games together. It's not just about reliving a cool historical fantasy. So when you become an AC fan and you stop looking at it as just a historical fantasy, you really just want more of the Assassin's story in the modern day. And I think that too many people came into these games not really caring about that and just wanting to play as Vikings or mercenaries, and forgot that this is a science fiction game first, then an Assassin's Creed game about ideology and philosophy and free will, and then a historical fantasy. And it's mainly because Ubisoft has started to agree with people like you to say, you know, why are we doing this? Why don't we just spend more time in cool historical places? But that's not what creates fanatics. That's not what creates people who are invested in an original story.
Ezio's story was pretty disappointing in my opinion. I wish they expanded more on Altair. The reason is that I feel like AC1 was the only game that had the Creed in Assassin's Creed. All the other games just had assassins for the sake of it.
This opinion is kind of like 50-50. I agree with some of it, I disagree with some of it. I don't think Ezio's story is disappointing. I think Ezio has one of the most beautiful, tragic, and impressive stories that I've seen in media, and most of it is thanks to Assassin's Creed Revelations. I think AC2 and AC Brotherhood are wonderful blockbuster Hollywood stories that create an incredibly likable character. But Revelations kind of gives the Logan treatment to Ezio, where you have an old man who starts to understand some of the irony and the insignificance of his life in the grand scheme of things. And the way that he grapples with that, with his life as an assassin, and how he finally realizes he's done enough and it's okay to move on, is extremely beautiful. I think the way that story is concluded and how you can look back on the 3 games knowing his conclusion is absolutely gorgeous. I would have enjoyed so much more about Altair, and if you read The Secret Crusade, you'll read much more about Altair from the story that was told in the other 2 side games, and his overall story is actually beautiful, and I would love to see in a remaster of a game. I don't think that it's true that the rest of the games have assassins just for the sake of it, but I do think it's true that AC1 is the most assassin-y Assassin's Creed. It's the game that's most true to the assassin ideology and the core assassin belief, and then it's definitely true that Ubisoft begins to move away from just being purely about assassins until AC Mirage. Ezio's story seems to be more like a blockbuster adventure game that is just very good at still being an Assassin's Creed game, so I agree with that. But throughout the franchise, this goes back and forth and interweaves, you know, between historical fantasy with assassins to Assassin's Creed assassins. I don't mind that at all as long as the stories are good.
Origins both ruined and saved the series at the same time. This is so interesting.
It's interesting, but it's not a hot take. It's pretty much again like the AC Unity thing. Like, most people agree with this. Because if you go back to 2015, I think was when Syndicate released and it completely bombed, Ubisoft decided to take a year off to give fans a breather to reassess their strategy and to recreate a new game with a new style. This was a much needed break and a much needed change. And when AC Origins came out, the fan base was ecstatic. Like, everyone was in love with AC Origins. Everyone felt like Assassin's Creed was back, and it was going to be the beginning of a new golden age. However, it informed Ubisoft that maybe people were tired of the old Assassin's Creed formula, that they wanted something different. They inferred the wrong things and decided that what people really wanted was just RPGs in a historical setting. So then they made AC Odyssey, and that's just when it all went to shit. So AC Origins was kind of like the savior and the damner of Assassin's Creed. It would have been nice for Ubisoft to take the right messages from AC Origins, which was that people like Bayek, and people wanted a trilogy with Bayek in an ancient world where you are an assassin and you found the assassins. So I don't blame Origins, but it was kind of like the first step in a very wrong direction.
I remember you telling me how heartbreaking it was to realize that the next AC being released after Origins was not a sequel to Origins, and I just cannot stop thinking about how sad that must have been.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger tragedies in AC for me. Next to AC Unity bombing and kind of like changing the course of AC forever, because then you start thinking of like, imagine AC Unity succeeded, what kind of AC games, like what kind of crazy fucking AC games we would have now instead of fucking Odyssey. But second to that is probably AC Origins never getting a trilogy with Bayek and Aya. I just think it's such a dumb choice. Yeah.
Haytham isn't that great. This may be biased due to how much I hated waiting to play as Connor. The scars still remain.
I mean, you definitely play as Haytham for too long. I don't think the first time you play as Haytham it's too long, because you're experiencing the story for the first time and there's a wonderful twist where you think Haytham is an assassin and then turns out he's a Templar. But I think on replay you realize that they do stick around too long with Haytham. He's a fucking amazing character and much better than Connor though, in my opinion. Connor is a decent character, but just nowhere near as charismatic and likable and magnetic as Haytham. When you play as Haytham, you kind of wish that AC Rogue would have just been about Haytham, because he's an infectious character. The voice acting is great, the writing is great, the characterization is great. One of the best characters in Assassin's Creed, full stop. So I don't think it's fair to hate him just because the developers made you play as him too long. But I kind of get the frustration though.
Adewale deserved his fate. Also, if you see closely, Templars are the ones who make sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking of making a video on the fact that Templars low-key are right, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but all assassins deserve their fate. One quote that I really like that I used in one of my videos, it's a Shakespearean quote, goes like this: "Violent delights have violent ends." And I explained that I don't truly believe that assassins take delight in their violent actions, but if you choose a life of murder, if you choose a life of violence where you take people's lives and commit atrocities in the name of freedom, you should be willing to accept that maybe it'll come back to bite you. And Adewale's fate, like all of the assassins' fates that tend to be quite tragic, I don't think are deserved, but I don't think they're undeserved either. I think that you're fighting in a war and being killed and dying a gruesome death is kind of a reality you have to face. So I definitely think Adewale died in a way he should have realized was a potential reality.
How did he die?
Shay killed him. Shay, you kill him in AC Rogue. So Adewale's like Edward's best friend in AC4 Black Flag, and then the next year you play AC Rogue and you kill him through the eyes of a Templar that you play as.
Altair is a better character than Ezio. Time to enjoy my last meal. If you think you're getting roasted for that opinion on this channel, you're very wrong.
Yeah, dude. Altair is my god. I fucking love him. 100% I think he's better than Ezio. I think he's a better assassin. I think he's a better character. I think he's so much fucking cooler. And yeah, Altair supremacy all the way. So don't worry, you're not getting roasted here. That's my opinion all the way. Altair is my shit.
AC Rebellion goes hard.
Just Sophie doesn't know what AC Rebellion is. Let me describe what AC Rebellion is, just so you understand how shit this opinion is, okay? Okay. AC Rebellion is a mobile, free-to-play Assassin's Creed game where you play as like chibi anime characters of the different assassins who all lived in different time periods but now are living in the same villa. And then you go in shitty tap-to-play missions where you try and collect chests, and the game tries to force you to like spend a bunch of fucking money unlocking collectibles to then keep on playing these shitty missions. Like, it's the most arcadey, shitty mobile game you've ever seen. And like the only reason you play is because you want to play as like Aguilar and like characters you don't get to play as in the games. I tried it. It's shit. So, my guy, what's his name?
Maba8346.
Your opinion is rejected, bro.
Ezio is less charming than Edward.
Ooh, okay, this one.
A lot of questions on charm.
I mean, you know, no homo, but we are gonna simp over these characters. This is contentious, and this is an interesting opinion because I think this can go either way. I think that both have their own charm in their own different ways. Damn, I don't know how I feel about that. I think they're both equally as charming. I really could not say who's more charming than the other. Damn, that's a good fucking comment. I'm not gonna disagree, but I'm not gonna agree either. They're both just fucking chads, basically. Yeah. I literally am blanking. I have nothing to add of substance to that comment.
Honestly, I never cared about the modern day in Assassin's Creed apart from AC1.
You're the fucking problem, bro. You're the fucking virus that's killing this fucking franchise. Why would you not care about the thing that the game is about? This is a science fiction franchise about people reliving their ancestors' memories. That's like fucking reading Lord of the Rings and not giving a shit about the ring. Why are you here? I get the whole historical fantasy thing, but oh my god, the context and the framing is what makes it intriguing. Why are you in fucking AC1 running around as Altair? Why are you running around in Venice during the Renaissance? Why are you running around in the American War of Independence? It's the why that moves you forward. The why that branches all these games together. That's what makes this franchise so wonderful, or what made it wonderful.
But would you say that the modern day is done as well in the other games as in AC1, or at least comparably?
I think that most people will agree that AC Brotherhood probably has the best modern day. I personally think AC1 has the best modern day because it's so different and it's so mysterious and kind of stylistically different from all the other games. But I think the modern day is done well until AC3. Then it kind of drops the ball. And I don't blame people for getting turned off of the modern day in the later games. But bro, how are you going to play AC1 or AC2 or AC Brotherhood and not like the modern day?
The RPG games are good/okay AC games. People just don't like the idea of change or innovation.
Depending on who you ask and who you hear criticize these games, this can be true or not. I think that there's valid criticisms for all of the RPG games, but I also think there are a lot of people who just don't want change. And I don't consider myself one of those people because I love AC Origins and I quite enjoyed AC Valhalla. But to say that AC Odyssey or a lot of AC Valhalla is a good AC game, I think it's just objectively false. You can say they're good games, and I probably would still disagree with you, but I would understand much more. But to say they're good Assassin's Creed games, I think fundamentally misunderstands what Assassin's Creed is and what these games are to Assassin's Creed. But I completely agree that there's always going to be critics who just do not like the idea of change, and if it's not what they like or the memory of what they liked, because they usually compare it to games that are not as good as they describe, like AC Unity, they're just never going to like something new. But if you're open to something new like I was with AC Origins, I think I'm in a fair ground to criticize these games for what they are, and I don't think that AC Odyssey is a good Assassin's Creed game. I just don't think so.
Origin stealth is worse than Kenway's Saga. Since you can hide in bushes, they didn't bother themselves to create proper levels of stealth.
Yeah, no. Some of these opinions are not like hot takes at all. Yeah, AC Origins has very usable and functional stealth, but it's nothing crazy, and AC4 has great stealth, and the environmental stealth, the tools that you have, the way you can combine parkour, the way that you have different weapons to kill with, it's definitely much more fleshed out than AC Origins. AC Origins has a hidden blade and some bows, and you either just stand in the distance shooting people, or you just go around breaking pots and killing people with the hidden blade. It's very restricted. I like AC Origins stealth, but it's not fleshed out anywhere near the level that it should be at.
Odyssey is still a much better game than Unity. That one will see head rolls.
It's technically, objectively a better game. Like in terms of the mechanics, in terms of bug-free, in terms of the reliable systems, but it's a piece of shit game, bro. AC Unity has heart and soul and charm, and it has the Assassin's Creed essence. AC Odyssey is this superfluous, surface-level, vain travesty of a project that fell from the sky and cracked its head to then walk up zombified into our fucking computers. It's not a game that deserves any more thought about it than it was put into it from the developers. It's not a deep game, but it works. There's no bugs. The combat systems work. The stealth works. It has nice animations. It's a pretty game. From a technical standpoint, it's a much better game. So it's not all about the code working. Of course, I wish AC Unity worked. I'm not excusing it, but you don't feel anything when you play AC Odyssey. You literally feel nothing when you play that game.
Odyssey looks so pretty, but as you explore the huge map, I just started feeling like everything was exactly the same. Everything looked exactly the same. It had no life.
Yeah, no, it's just a pretty brushstroke to hide a bunch of shit.
Bayek is a better character than Edward and Connor.
I don't agree, but not because I don't want to agree. Bayek is one of my favorite characters of all time, and I prefer him to Edward and Connor, but he just doesn't have the time to develop the way Edward and Connor did. I feel like AC4 and 3 are much more story-driven games, and I do think that it gives Edward and Connor time to shine and develop as characters. Bayek was kind of rushed through his own story, and the voice actor was wasted in a story that really didn't perform the way it should have. I think he's a wonderful character, and I definitely subjectively prefer him, but Edward's story particularly is just too good and too well written for me to be able to say Bayek is a better character.
This one's crazy to me. AC Rogue is better than Unity.
Why?
Isn't AC Rogue the Templar one? The one that looks so gray. It's AC3, right?
It's AC Rogue. AC3 would be AC3. I think you've seen me play it. I think we recorded a video together about it. But no. The answer is no. It's not a better game. Like, it's a side game made by a smaller studio where you play as a Templar, but all that happens is that the roles switch and you do what assassins would be doing, but you call yourself a Templar. And then assassins start behaving like Templars and becoming tyrants. And it's just such a badly executed game. Like, the idea of playing as a Templar or an assassin turned Templar is an amazing idea, but the way that it's been handled in AC Rogue is horrible. So I really don't think it's anywhere near the level of AC Unity.
How would you rank Mirage in all your favorite games?
In the upper middle. I don't think I have like a number for it, but definitely one of the better games. Definitely above the average, for sure.
Because I was thinking that's also made by a small team.
True, yeah. So I should say, like, a small team doesn't mean it's going to be worse. That's a valid point. But in this case, it does.
AC Odyssey is a wacky nonsense game.
Bro, I said hot takes. This shit's just like the Bible of AC. Yeah, it's fucking wacky and shit.
AC2 wasn't that good.
Now this is what I call a controversial opinion. Because in a lot of circles, especially in the greater video game industry, Assassin's Creed 2 is regarded as the best Assassin's Creed game, the time where Assassin's Creed was the best. And within the AC fandom, AC Brotherhood is regarded as the best, with AC2 being a very close second. I think that it greatly depends on when you played Assassin's Creed 2 and what Assassin's Creed 2 you played. Because if you played the original version of AC2 that doesn't have the DLC baked into it, it is not an overrated game. It's a wonderful masterpiece of storytelling, and it's the perfect sequel to Assassin's Creed 1, which to me is a perfect game. However, one flaw that this game did have, or I guess two flaws, but one is a direct flaw and a second is just unfortunate. The first flaw is that the DLC between the last two sequences fucking sucks, because it breaks the pacing right when the story is about to climax to give a subpar story that has one or two good moments, and apart from that gives mediocre missions with a mediocre story and a mediocre map. However, when you buy the Ezio trilogy now, that DLC is baked into AC AC2, and you cannot have any form of not playing it. So if you buy Assassin's Creed 2 now in the Ezio collection, you have to play through the sequences that break the pacing of the game and kind of ruin the entire game and really take it down. So if you play it now, I think that it is a little bit overrated because the last few repaired sequences kind of ruin the whole pacing of the game. Now, the second thing that AC2 suffers from is that it came only 1 year before Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which is just a polished version of Assassin's Creed 2. So when you play AC2, you're missing so many of the things that make it feel like a true sequel in terms of mechanics, because in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, you have chain kills, you have a bunch more weapons, you can do more interesting things with horses, with parkour, with guards, the enemy variety, with your recruits. There's so much more freedom and player expression in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which only came a year after. So when you're playing Assassin's Creed 2 and you don't have chain kills and you have to do the same old, combat of just like mashing buttons and fighting people with the same few weapons, you feel like it's just not quite there yet, and it hasn't aged that well compared to the game that came right after.
Origins is overrated. It's just the same as Odyssey or Valhalla minus the dialogue.
Dude, no. No. You're not gonna come here to the Spaniard and start dissing AC Origins, bro. You don't fucking do that. AC Origins is a masterpiece. It's fucking amazing. It's not just the fact that it doesn't lean into the dialogue options, the multiple endings, the fact that Bayek is a way better voice actor, the fact that the soundtrack is better. It's also the fact that the mission designs are better, that the world design is better, that you actually walk around this world and feel depth, that you feel that you're in actual ancient Egypt, that you feel the magic that became legend in history. You feel a world that has been crafted with care and detail, that actually feels lived in. It feels like people were living there before you and people are going to live there after you. It feels like Bayek truly grew up in those lands in a way that you don't feel in AC Odyssey or Valhalla. It's nowhere near the same level of repetitive gameplay, even though it does have some repetitive gameplay or problematic gameplay loops. This game still has the love and charm of an AC game that was made by a studio that are fans of Assassin's Creed without being plagued by RPG bullshit. I think AC Origins is an absolutely beautiful game. It has its flaws, but overall it's on such a different level to AC Valhalla or Odyssey that I just cannot even begin to like bunch them in the same trilogy, which is what we're forced to do because it's like the RPG trilogy. But AC Origins is just on a different stratosphere.
My opinion is that the downfall of Assassin's Creed was with AC Syndicate. Terrible combat, no parkour freedom, and a boring ass story.
Identifying the downfall of Assassin's Creed is kind of like trying to figure out the cause for World War I. Depending on which historian you ask, you're gonna have a different option because it's all just a fucking waterfall of disastrous events. Some people would say the downfall of Assassin's Creed was Assassin's Creed 3 because the franchise was meant to end with Assassin's Creed 3, and Patrice Désilets, the creator of Assassin's Creed, wanted the franchise to end with that game, with Desmond becoming some sort of time traveler that doesn't need the animus to go back to historical events, that can just, through the bleeding effect, go back to any time period, and he would go between Altair, Ezio, and Connor to develop a final mystery that kind of solves the entire issue in the modern day. But then Ubisoft decided that they had a cash cow they didn't want to give up on, so they decided to just keep the story going. So some people would say AC3 was the downfall of Assassin's Creed. Some people would say that AC Unity was the downfall because they promoted this huge, enormous back-to-form game after Assassin's Creed 4 that was like the ultimate Assassin's Creed experience, and by releasing it too early and giving Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed a bad name, they've spiraled the downfall of Assassin's Creed. Some people would say it's AC Syndicate, like this person, because AC Syndicate released. It was a terrible sequel to AC Unity that did not make up for the sins that they committed, created a very boring, lackluster, and wacky game that just didn't function as an Assassin's Creed game should, and didn't really deliver the ultimate AC experience that would have salvaged the game. But then some people, like we talked about before, would have said that AC Origins doomed Assassin's Creed by proving that RPG as a genre change could be successful, and some people would say AC Odyssey corrupted Assassin's Creed, and that's when Assassin's Creed had its downfall. They leaned into dialogue options and sex changes and stuff like that. The downfall of Assassin's Creed can be pinpointed to a series of unfortunate events, and depending on what game you're emotionally attached to the most or what game you hate the most, you're gonna have a different answer for that. Some people even say that Assassin's Creed hasn't had a downfall, that Assassin's Creed is better than ever because they like the RPG games and they became fans of the RPG games. So it's a complicated conversation, I think. I wouldn't say there's one definitive moment where Assassin's Creed lost its way. Like most things in life, a small gradual decline that you don't realize until it's way too far.
Bro, but then is there more good than bad? Because that sounds like a long list of unfortunate events.
Yeah, this is the thing about being an AC fan, like most of it sucks. I like the games, but it is kind of like they're mostly misses and every now and then you have a hit. But I obviously don't agree. I love AC Unity, I love AC3, I love AC Origins, and I love Mirage, so I'm very happy with Assassin's Creed. But the way you can kind of like synthesize AC is basically saying that it's, I think White Light said this in one of his videos. He said Assassin's Creed is afraid of its own potential. Every AC game has had so much more potential than what we actually got. So AC fans are just stuck in a loop of dreaming that maybe the next game will be the one that finally realizes that potential.
Okay, so this is turning into an interview, but if Ubisoft was listening, game, what would you just tell them to do next to revamp the series?
I would not tell them to revamp. Maybe in this case I would, because they need a new engine or a new version of the engine. But once they find a good engine with good lighting, good mechanics, good stealth, good parkour, all I would beg them to do is stop with the whole blank slate approach. What Ubisoft does every game is just start from scratch and try to capture lightning in a bottle again and again and again. And I would just beg them to iterate every game until they get it right. To take what works from one game, pass it on to another. They don't have to make new animations or new everything. Whatever works, just pass it on to the next game and then try and fix what didn't. And just iterate on games until they eventually have the perfect AC game, instead of just trying to revamp over and over again, trying to capture lightning in a bottle. It's just useless. I think that Ubisoft should really listen to what works and what doesn't, learn about cause attribution and being able to attribute cause to the right failures and successes, and then just learn to keep things from their games in the right way.
And what's the one thing that you hope that AC Red does well?
For me, it's movement. I'm so tired of bad fucking movement, and I know a lot of people will fucking vouch for Mirage, but it's just nowhere near where it should be. Movement is the thing I'm most passionate about. It's the thing that's most hard to recreate. Most games do not have a good third-person parkour system. It's a very difficult thing to achieve that Assassin's Creed achieved. Stealth, you can have a decent stealth system in most games, and you can have a decent combat system in most games, and you can have a good story in most games. What most games really do not have is a good parkour system, and it's the thing that made AC so unique. So it's the thing that I just desperately want back so badly, because it's such a gem that you can't find anywhere else. But anyways, I think that's all the questions. This video is probably like an hour long, but I want to thank everyone that's been supporting the channel these past 2 months. Thank you for all the questions that you asked, and thank you for giving me your opinions. Your opinions are your opinions. I respect all of them, and this was just a bit of fun. Thank you to my girlfriend for taking the time to do this with me. And if you guys have any ideas for videos that you want me to talk about or subjects that you want to hear about, let me know down below. And if you guys want to hear me rant about other things that AC fans do, like fantasize about games, you can watch this video I made about my ideal ancient Greece game, where I talk about what I would have wanted AC Odyssey to be like if I was able to make it.